Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep on something really fascinating. We're talking intimacy, but through an interesting lens.
Yeah, we're looking at it from the perspective of a 92-year-old woman.
Exactly. And I know you might be thinking, what could someone who's lived through almost an entire century tell us about modern relationships and intimacy?
Right. It sounds a little counterintuitive.
But believe me, her insights are incredibly timeless and cut through all the noise we hear today.
Oh,
It's really refreshing, actually.
absolutely. And that's why you'll want to stay with us until the very end of this deep dive, because that's where the real gold is.
Yeah, the last bit of wisdom we unpack is it's powerful stuff.
It really could shift how you think about connection in your relationships forever.
So what we're trying to figure out today is why some women choose to be intimate with their partners in the most profound ways.
And what that actually means for them beyond the physical experience.
Right. It's not just about the act itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to explore the psychology and emotions behind female intimacy.
All based on the wisdom of this incredible woman.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's jump in. One of the most important things to understand is that for women, intimacy isn't just physical.
It goes so much deeper than that.
Absolutely. It's all about feeling connected emotionally.
Feeling safe and trusting your partner completely.
And get this, Beham, even acts like oral sex, when given willingly, are seen as a powerful sign of that deep emotional connection.
Not just a physical act.
It's a way of expressing that intense intimacy.
Which is really interesting when you compare it to what we often assume drives attraction for men.
Like looks or sexual performance.
Exactly. But this perspective challenges that. It
Yeah.
suggests that women are attracted to how they feel when they're with a man.
It's about the emotional atmosphere he creates.
So the key takeaway here is that for a woman to truly desire intimacy, she needs to feel secure emotionally, appreciated for who she is, and deeply connected to her partner.
And if those needs aren't met, if she feels ignored or criticized or emotionally distant,
Then that desire can really fade no matter how much love there might be.
even if she loves him, it doesn't guarantee that spark will stay alive.
It's a reminder that the emotional and physical are totally intertwined.
You know, we often hear about couples who lose that initial passion over time.
Right, and the blame often gets put on things like age or hormones.
But this perspective offers a different explanation. It suggests that what really happens is a gradual drifting apart emotionally.
A disconnect that often goes unspoken.
Which brings us to the emotional journey that leads to physical intimacy. When a woman feels seen and desired, not just physically, but emotionally and truly appreciated for who she is, well,
It's only natural that she wants to express that through physical closeness.
it flows organically from that deep connection.
But what if those emotional needs aren't being met? What if she feels unappreciated or disconnected?
Then even if the guy is physically attractive or successful,
It won't necessarily translate into desire on her part.
because that emotional foundation is missing.
Have you ever noticed a shift in intimacy in your own relationships? Maybe things felt different over time? This perspective offers a really interesting way to understand why that might happen.
It's all about those subtle emotional currents that are always running beneath the surface.
And speaking of subtle shifts, this perspective dives into what it calls a silent mistake. Something a lot of men do without even realizing it.
A mistake that can slowly chip away at intimacy over time.
What is it? Spill the beans.
The mistake is that men stop making their partner feel special.
They might still love them, but they don't put in the same effort to show it.
Exactly. And this shift in attention, even though it might seem small, can have a huge impact on the relationship.
It's like at the beginning, everything is new and exciting. Men often go above and beyond to make their partner feel seen and heard.
They listen attentively. They bring little surprises. They express their love openly.
But over time, those gestures often start to fade.
Life gets in the way, routines set in, and that initial effort disappears.
It's so easy to slip into autopilot.
And the problem is that women don't usually fall out of love overnight. It's a gradual process, and it's directly linked to this feeling of no longer being special.
Of not being cherished and prioritized the way they once were.
And here's the crucial part. As that feeling fades, so does the physical intimacy.
Because that emotional connection is the foundation.
It's the root, not the fruit.
And this leads to a big misunderstanding. Men often think the problem is that their partner isn't interested in sex.
They see that as the core issue.
But in reality, it's often a symptom of a much deeper emotional disconnect.
The perspective shares an example of a man who'd been married for over 30 years. He said he and his wife felt more like roommates than lovers. And when asked when the last time he'd made her feel truly special was, he couldn't remember.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
It's not that he didn't love her anymore, but somewhere along the way he stopped actively nurturing that connection. He just assumed it would always be there.
It's a good reminder that relationships need constant attention.
But here's the good news. This process can be reversed.
There's hope.
When a man starts making his partner feel cherished again, she tends to respond both emotionally and physically.
So it's not a lost cause.
Not at all. Now let's get to the secret to lasting passion. This is where the real wisdom kicks in.
The juicy stuff.
It boils down to this. A woman gives her heart and body fully when she feels cherished, protected, and emotionally secure.
When she knows, without a doubt, that she's loved and valued.
And this understanding, this shift in mindset, is what separates couples who keep the spark alive from those who don't.
It's about understanding what truly cultivates desire.
And it's not what we often think it is. It's not about trying harder in superficial ways.
It's not about looking younger or being in better shape or even performing better sexually.
Those things might play a role, but they're not the core drivers.
It all comes back to how the woman feels in the relationship. Does she feel valued, respected, emotionally connected?
Those are the questions that matter.
The perspective even shares a story about a man in his late 60s who has a fantastic relationship with his wife. And he attributes it not to his looks or his performance, but to understanding what makes her feel truly loved and appreciated.
It's about knowing her deeply and acting on that knowledge.
So this is all very insightful, but what can we actually do with this information? How can we put this wisdom into practice?
Well, luckily, this perspective offers some really concrete advice.
Practical steps we can take to strengthen our emotional connections.
And the first one focuses on communication, specifically on the words we use.
The advice is to speak to her heart, not just her ears.
It emphasizes how powerful our words can be. They can make a woman feel cherished and understood, or they can make her feel invisible and unimportant.
Like she doesn't matter.
And when she feels unseen, it's natural for her to withdraw emotionally.
It's a self-protective mechanism.
But when she feels truly understood and appreciated, her desire for closeness, both emotional and physical, will often flourish.
It's amazing how much our words can impact those deeper feelings.
Here are a couple of examples. Instead of saying, "You look nice," try something like, "I love how your smile lights up the room."
It's about being specific and genuine.
Or instead of just saying, "Thanks for making dinner," try saying, "I really appreciate the love and effort you put into this. It makes me feel so cared for."
It's about acknowledging the thought and the feeling behind the action.
Women crave that depth of emotion.
Yeah.
They want to know that the little things they do are noticed and appreciated.
And feeling seen leads to feeling safe, which is crucial for intimacy to thrive.
Absolutely. Now, the second action focuses on physical touch, but with an important caveat.
It's about touch without expectations.
Meaning, not every touch has to lead to sex.
It's about differentiating between touch that's purely affectionate and touch that's driven by a desire for something more.
Women can sense the difference.
And when every touch feels like it has an ulterior motive, it can create pressure and obligation.
So the advice is to incorporate little touches throughout the day that are purely about expressing affection.
Like a kiss on the forehead, or holding hands while you're relaxing, or putting your hand on her back when you're talking.
These small gestures communicate that you cherish her as a person, not just a physical being.
They say, "I desire you, but I also adore you just as you are."
And when a woman feels that kind of adoration in everyday moments, it lays the groundwork for her to crave intimacy in bigger moments too.
It's about building that foundation of trust and affection.
And here's a little heads up. If you notice your partner pulling away physically, it might be a sign that she's feeling emotionally disconnected.
So pay attention to those cues.
Addressing that emotional gap is often the first step towards reigniting the physical spark.
Now, the third action emphasizes the importance of consistency. It's about showing up in the small things day after day.
It's not always about the grand gestures or elaborate surprises.
It's about those little acts of care and attention that demonstrate your love in a tangible way.
Things like refilling her coffee without being asked, or checking in with her when she's stressed, or remembering details from her stories and bringing them up later.
These seemingly small things speak volumes.
They show her that you're paying attention, that you care about her well-being, that you value her thoughts and experiences.
The perspective uses a great analogy here. It describes a woman's emotional connection as a bank account.
Every act of care is like making a deposit.
And when that account is full, She naturally wants to give back in every way, including intimately.
It's a beautiful image. It illustrates how those small, consistent actions can build a strong foundation for lasting intimacy.
So these three habits, speaking to her heart, not just your ears, touching her without expectations and showing up consistently in the small things.
They're powerful tools for transforming how your partner feels and creating that deep desire for closeness.
And now we come to the final key, the missing link that explains why some relationships thrive while others struggle.
This is really important.
The idea is that the most successful relationships aren't built on constant effort. They're built on deep understanding.
It's not about doing more, it's about doing what truly matters.
It's about knowing your partner so well that you understand what makes them feel loved and appreciated.
And then consistently acting on that knowledge.
You know, you see couples where one person is always trying so hard. They shower their partner with gifts and compliments and grand gestures.
So there's still this sense of distance between them.
Then you see other couples who seem to do less on the surface, but their connection is so strong.
You just get each other.
And that's the difference. It's not about the quantity of effort, it's about the quality. It's about understanding what truly resonates with your partner.
When that understanding is there, attraction happens naturally. It's not a constant uphill battle.
The Perspective shares a story about a couple named Mark and Lisa. Mark was doing all the right things, providing for his family, telling Lisa he loved her, but she still felt distant and uninterested in intimacy.
He was confused and frustrated.
He thought he was doing everything he was supposed to do.
But what changed everything wasn't him trying harder. It was him simply listening to Lisa. One night, instead of offering solutions or getting defensive, he just said, "Tell me what's going on. I want to understand."
And for the first time, she truly opened up. She shared that she felt unheard, like her feelings didn't matter.
And that simple act of listening without judgment changed everything.
Lisa felt seen and understood, and their connection was rekindled.
It wasn't about Mark doing more. It was about him understanding Lisa's needs and responding to them.
This highlights a fundamental truth about lasting attraction. Women fall in love with how you make them feel, not with what you do.
It's about creating that emotional safety, that sense of being cherished and deeply understood.
And if that's missing, no amount of superficial effort will fix it.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
So here's a question for you listening. Do you feel truly heard and understood in your relationship?
If not, the first step is simple. Just listen. Really listen. Don't try to fix things. Don't get defensive. Just be present and absorb what your partner is saying.
That act of deep listening can be the spark that reignites your emotional connection.
And from there, physical intimacy can follow more naturally and passionately.
So as we've learned from this wise 92-year-old woman, cultivating a deep emotional connection is the key to lasting intimacy.
It's about making your partner feel cherished, understood, and safe.
And that final key we discussed, truly listening with the intent to understand.
It's such a simple shift, but it can have profound effects.
So as you go about your day, ask yourself, what's one small thing you can do to make your partner feel truly understood?
That one small action could be the start of something really special.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.
We hope these insights help you create even deeper, more fulfilling connections in your own relationships.
We'll see you next time.